Robert Kiyosaki, the author of Rich Dad, Poor Dad. He has sold more than 40 million copies since the book has come out, but is he actually right when it comes to money, or is he completely misguided? Let's go ahead and break it down. Now, if you haven't noticed or if you haven't followed him on Twitter, Robert Kiyosaki can be wrong about a lot of things, but recently he just revealed that he is $1.3 billion in debt. That is not something that a typical financial author or expert tends to do. So what is going wrong with Robert Kiyosaki, and was he even right to begin with? So here's the thing. Yes, we know the book is extremely popular, but do know that popularity doesn't equal quality. For example, McDonald's is extremely popular. They have, 7 billion people served. Is that the best burger you ever had in your life? Probably not. And if it is, you got some life to live. You gotta get around, man. You really do. But here's the thing when it comes to Robert Kiyosaki. Number one, the book was fiction. And the problem with that is the fact that it was portrayed as this is my actual life. These are things I actually went through. And that has not been the case. And he has, quote unquote, confessed pretty much about a decade or so ago that the rich dad was not true. That was something he completely made up. Though the book is, portrayed as something that is true and an accurate story of his life, which again has not been the case. The other thing here that really stood out to me is he has no actual documented proof before the book that he was actually rich. Now, the reason why that matters is because anytime you're trusting somebody when it comes to finance, well, number one, trust is important, right? You should be able to verify who you're talking to, whether those things are true and accurate and things of that nature. That's why in all of my books, you'll see sources for all the numbers I've come up with, right? You can go and look me up in the FINRA database and see that I've had my licenses, and you can check my degrees and do all that type of stuff, right? You want to be able to verify. Well, here's the thing. Robert Kiyosaki has never actually put out any proof or evidence that he was wealthy before the book, which means that he's only rich because of the book. The problem with that is the fact that I can't teach you how to be rich by selling you on how to be rich, right? The purpose of this should be, I've built a resume, I made $1 million, here's how I made it. Not, I'm telling you how to make $1 million by selling you a book on how to do that, right? You want to have the success and then teach from that success, which has not been the case. In fact, his own business on how to teach people how to be wealthy went bankrupt in 2012. So that has not even been successful from that point of view. His reported net worth, depending on who you ask, but the Tampa Bay Times actually put out their factual release of his entire history, things that they have went through and verified, says his net worth is right around $100 million. Now, that is good, that is successful. If you wrote a book on how I made $100 million, it would probably start off about selling a fictional book about money, about inspiration. But the main thing is, he just came out just last week, and said he is over $1 billion in debt. That means, ladies and gentlemen, that he has 10 times more debt than he has over his entire net worth. That is not something that you can spend and make into something that is, this is what the wealthy do. This is not what the wealthy do at all. 10 times? I can see if you say, hey, I have some debt, I have $1 billion worth of debt, but I have $2 billion total, right? So it's half my net worth or something of that nature. But we're talking 10 times your net worth. That is not healthy for anybody. Not healthy for anybody to have that level of debt. And to his own admission, he says in that video, hey, it's not my problem. If I don't pay it back and the bank goes bankrupt, that's them. It's not my problem at all. That is a major concern when you're someone in the financial space who is supposed to be about trust, who is supposed to be about building the best financial habits. Nobody would sit here and tell you, take out 10 times your net worth, and hey, if it goes bankrupt, hopefully it takes the bank out with you. That's not how this entire thing is supposed to work. So those are a few things that immediately stood out, other than the fact that, again, the rich dad was not real. The book was primarily fictional, but he is often wrong, I would say really recently, when it comes to his predictions around what he thinks is going to happen to the economy, and his investing advice has been totally off. So in fact, I'm actually going to put this tweet up here. I just want to have it up so I can read it to you for those who may be listening. Here's the first one. Best investment advice, and this was in June of 2022. Cans of tuna fish. Okay, his best investment, cans of tuna fish. This is from his actual Twitter page. So cans of tuna fish, this is his best investment. He says inflation is about to take off. Now, to his credit, at that point in time in 2022, inflation was high. Best investment are cans of tuna and baked beans. You can't eat gold. That's true, right? You can't eat gold, silver, or Bitcoin. You can eat cans of tuna and baked beans. Food, most important. So it reads, starvation, next problem. Invest in the solution, take care. Now, we're all here. The year is now 2024. The stock market has hit an all-time high since then. Inflation has come down to about 3% since this tweet. Okay, completely wrong. How do you even invest in tuna anyway? And who wants to eat tuna and baked beans? Okay, so the food selection is bad in and of itself, but that's awful advice. And if you have followed Robert Kiyosaki, at least on social media pages, every 6 months or so, he puts out a doom and gloom prediction about where the entire economy is going and what he thinks is going to happen, which again, tends to be wrong. But it doesn't stop there. Another tweet he put out on March 14th of 2022. Brandon and Fed. For those that don't know, Brandon is supposed to be a derogatory term for President Biden, but Brandon and Fed want inflation to pay trillions in debt. Best investment may be stocking products you will use, such as toilet paper, trash bags, canned goods, frozen goods, gold, silver, Bitcoin. I do not trust Brandon or Fed. They are Marxists, and the Fed and Brandon. Now, there's a huge political lean here, but I would say, I mean, again, this is the market has been up since then. I mean, think of companies like Nvidia that were up 238% last year alone. Now, at the time the tweet was made, the stock market was on its way down. We did have a down year, but we've obviously survived. At no point in 2022 were we thinking that we need to invest in trash bags and tuna and baked beans. That's not something a true financial expert says, yet and still Robert Kiyosaki is still, touted as one of the best that has done it when it comes to personal finances, which again, I can't really say that I can agree given the receipts of the things that we have at this point in time. So I would argue that the biggest thing is this: when it comes to money, when it comes to advice, when it comes to investing, budgeting, credit, whatever it is, I think trust is the biggest currency. You have to be able to trust that that person is going to give you factual and accurate information. And if they don't, they should be able to come out and say, hey, I was wrong about X, Y, and Z. Here is the correct information. You should be able to admit those things and have sources that back up all of those claims. I've been wrong. No one's perfect. You can be wrong every now and then. But to be that wrong is something that is an issue and something that is very hard to get by. So, yeah, Robert Kiyosaki, I would argue, is not good. He's great at selling. He's great at marketing, obviously, right? But he's not great at giving financial advice. It's not a book that I would ever recommend. Now, there are people I know for a fact, there are people in my family who absolutely love that book. But if you go back and read it, you'll notice that it is highly conceptual, meaning like, yeah, business owners win. Have more assets than liabilities. It's super basic, very conceptual, and doesn't really give you details into what you should do and the strategies and how to do those things. So yeah, I'm not a big fan. Again, I think the receipts are out there for you to analyze on your own in addition to the ones that I'm giving you here. And it's just not something that I think is great moving forward, especially at the top of the year when people are looking to improve their finances. I would not start with someone like Robert Kiyosaki. But if you want to know who else to not follow and not take advice from, you might want to check out this next video on Dave Ramsey. That video is right here.